The Ghost of Popcorn Hill, Chapter 4. Mrs. Tracy loved Rosie the minute she saw her. She gave the boys her old bathrobe to make a cozy bed next to the stove. "It'll feel so much better having a dog in the house," she said, "in case those prowlers come back again." That afternoon, Martin and Peter tied a rope to Rosie's collar and took her for a walk around the hilltop. She sniffed every tree and peered under bushes, but mostly she ran along next to the boys and jumped on them. "She likes us," Martin said. Peter didn't answer. "We can teach her lots of tricks," Martin added. "She's smart." "That German shepherd dog was smarter," Peter said. "I can tell." When they returned to the cabin, they rolled a ball back and forth across the kitchen for Rosie to chase. "I'd say she's great at chasing and pretty terrible at bringing back," their father commented. He was getting ready to go to town again for his 4-nights-a-week job at the supermarket. "She's good at chewing, too." Mrs. Tracy held up the letter that had fallen onto the floor. It was almost ripped in two. "We'll have to be careful." After supper, the boys carried a bag of garbage out to the pit at the end of the lot. Then they sat on a big rock and looked down at the apple orchard at the foot of the hill. Beyond it, they could see the roof of the old deserted mill, and beyond that, of a little creek. That wound around Popcorn Hill. The air was soft as silk. "What's that?" Martin asked, as suddenly something was moving among the apple trees. Peter grabbed his arm. "It could be a deer," Martin whispered. "Maybe it's a wolf." Peter slid off the rock. "Come on, Martin, let's go." "That's crazy," Martin said, but he stood up too, just in case. A moment later, both boys gasped in surprise. A shaggy gray and white Old English sheepdog trotted out from under the trees and looked around. Even from this distance, they could see that he was big. Peter was the first to speak. "He's lost," he said positively. "He needs friends. Come on, Martin." Together the boys hurried along the path that led down the hillside. There was something thrilling about the way the huge sheepdog stood there waiting. He seemed to be inviting them to join him. But when they reached the bottom of the hill and Peter called, "Here, boy," the dog darted away. He ran along the edge of the orchard and then doubled back and stopped. "Come on, boy." Martin held out his hand. This time the dog raced right past them, long hair flying. The boys started to follow, but the dog turned and darted in among the trees. He looked over his shoulder once, and Peter gave a crow of delight. "He smiled at us," he shouted. "Did you see?" "Dogs don't smile," Martin said. He pulled Peter to a stop. It was getting dark. Then they could no longer see the sheepdog. Suddenly the orchard seemed lonely, and the cabin a long way off. "We better go back," said Martin. "Mom will be worried." All the way up the hill, Peter kept talking about the sheepdog. "If he's lost, he needs a place to live," he said. "That poor dog is all by himself." "We have a dog," Martin reminded him. But he kept remembering how helpfully the sheepdog had looked at them. "He could pull the wagon," Peter said dreamily. "He's so big, he could pull 2 wagons. I really liked him." "So did I," thought Martin ahead of them. The lights of the cabin twinkled in the dark. Martin walked faster. "I'm going to teach Rosie to sit tonight," he said. "It'll be her first lesson." "That sheepdog knows a lot of tricks already," Peter said. "I can tell."